Shalom, shalom. Giving all praises and glory to our power. Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rachak Kodash. Double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect of the tabernacles of David scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. Wherever you may be and wherever you may be, to you I say shalom. Yahshua shalom. All right, I want to get into a few things here. All right, it's quite a few things here, but they're all in the same realm of things. All right, constant topic we're going into over and over and over. We're going to start with this first slide here. This is just a freeze frame, a picture or whatever. All right. But this first one is from Zero Hedge. It says economic D-Day. And we know D-Day's doomsday, right? So economic doomsday. So economic D-Day. Trump announces most crushing economic operation ever against Iran. All right. That's the headline dated August 20, 2026. Summary: Trump's economic war against Iran begins. Trump says severe economic consequences for any country that does businesses with Tehran. All right. Trump says economic D-Day begins against Iran. UAE cuts ties as Iran warns Gulf states against helping Washington. Kapler, whatever, says U.S. Navy gaining ground in Hormuz. And that's definitely, that last one is a blatant lie. Everything that was just said there was faulty, but definitely that last one. They're not gaining ground. All right. And then he comes on television every now and then, talks about they're about to take control, or we got control, or we have it secured, or we have it open, and everybody knows that that's not true because Iran most definitely has that on lock. Okay, and those non-mainstream news outlets will let you know, those that are back east. Okay, Sentinel back east, because America will lie to you every time. All right. Economic D-Day. President Trump is out with a Truth Social post describing today as Economic D-Day against Iran, declaring that his total economic war against Tehran will be the most crushing economic operation ever taken against any country. Right, and the next slide here has everything that was said. All right. Trump said that with Tehran's military and military industrial base reduced to now rubble and its currency worthless, so if they reduce to rubble, how are they still able to put up a fight? All right. Currency worthless. I don't know anything about that, but anyways, he will unleash severe economic consequences against any, right, any in bold capital, any country that allows its financial institutions, businesses, airports, or government entities to provide any type of lifeline to Iran. So this is a threat to anyone who decides to stand with Iran. Why? Because Babylon's losing. There's no way they will take control of the Strait of Hormuz. There's no way that they can open it on their own terms. They have to come to the terms of Iran, which they refuse to do, which is why he also keeps lying about, oh, we're talking about this now, we're talking about that now. We're very close, and it's lying. He's lying because Persia pretty much let it be known, either meet our demands or it's a no-go. There is no in between. Okay, I think it came up recently where it's talking about them being permanently put out the land and stuff like that. I mean, there's a lot of noise going on, but really, ultimately, all things are spiraling around prophecy. Okay, but to get back on point, it says here's the full Truth Social post, which he probably didn't really write this himself. Anyways, no one has given the Islamic Republic of Iran a greater opportunity to make a deal than me. You see how they talk? All right. That's the pride of their heart. That's the hammer of the earth. Excuse me. Because he's talking as if he's doing them a favor, when really they want to utilize whatever they want to utilize. And when they can't, what do? They go to war, or they sack you, or they try to set up a puppet leader. That's not working with Persia. Okay? So he's talking as if he's doing them a favor. All right? So it says the opportunity to make a deal than me, but you're not meeting their demands. All right, you want the demands to fall in favor of the SOI. Okay. It says, therefore, today I am announcing the most crushing economic operation ever taken against any country. This will be economic warfare and isolation on an unprecedented scale. Their navy is gone. Their air force is destroyed. Their military factories are now rubble. Their currency is worthless, and their country is hanging by a thread. Today, I am also announcing that any country that allows its financial institutions, businesses, airports, or government entities to provide any type of lifeline to Iran will itself face tremendous economic consequences. So there you go. That threat. Oil smuggling, swap lines, cash transfers, exchange houses, ship registries, front companies. It all needs to stop now. You see how he's talking like he's their daddy? All right. Like he actually like he's actually in control. Like he owns the cards. He doesn't have the cards. Persia has the cards. That's what he said to what's the guy from Ukraine, Zelensky, right? Well, Babylon doesn't have the cards. Persia has the cards. And look, he says, you know who you are. All right, so doubling down on his threat, like, yeah, you know who you are. I'm talking to you. And really, he's putting it out there in the form of a light threat, but really, it's his words. You can hear scream desperation. Okay, he's desperate. They don't have any way, all right, out of their scenario. They can't win. They're not gonna control the Strait of Hormuz. Okay, so he's desperate. And then the funny thing about this, all right, let me keep reading. It says, this will be an economic D-Day, and we need all of our allies to stand with the United States of America to isolate and defeat the Persian threat. Now, here's the interesting thing about that is because obviously the Lord has him confused, because one moment he's trash talking those same said allies, but then in the next breath, oh, we need to come together, all right, to stop this Iranian threat, okay? But then also you threaten all these nations. So what are you doing, man? All right, it's the Lord that has them in derision. All right, he's got this cat confused, man. And what does it say? Proverbs 21:1, the king's heart is in the hands of the Lord, and as the rivers of water, he turneth it withers wherever he will. So it says, these maniacs are on the ropes. That's funny. And these historic measures will cripple them and their ability to project terror worldwide. See, everybody's an terrorist and stuff for them, right? Or the SOI. Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. They keep throwing that in there. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. See, he's talking as if like, yeah, this is what I'm saying. All right, you're going to hear it. So thank you for your attention to this matter. So get to it. Well, it's not going to work that way. All right. So let's move on to the next thing here, because you can see while I'm reading this about economy and stuff like that, it's not going to go any kind of way like he just posted. It's all war talk, but it's not doing them any good. Oh, there's something else here. Last week, Derek Holt, head of capital markets economics and Scotiabank in Toronto, offered clients a preview of what the campaign to economically isolate Iran could look like, including the potential targeting of China. Interesting. Notably, much of Iran's crude exports flow to Chinese buyers. All right, so all interesting stuff there. So moving on to the next slide. I want to talk about this because I saw this couple times, quite a few times now. Just and the only thing I can say is Esau was a damn devil, man. He's a demon. He's a doggone demon. All right. But hey, this is what you expect from this man. So it says, and there's a couple of videos out in too, and these people are fighting each other, trying to get into the store to get this damn chicken. So African stampede for Kentucky Fried Chicken causes pandemonium. Kentucky Fried Chicken is running a once in a blue moon promotion to celebrate a 15-year franchise anniversary. The only problem is they're doing it in West Africa, in the country of Ghana, where the poverty rate is 22% and the average yearly wage is $2,630 US. So they're doing it in a place where people can barely afford this chicken, but yet they're going crazy over it. All right, and they laughed at Judah. Right? They make the shows, like the movies, the I Clone Tyrone with the chicken. All right, which you really had Jake fighting over some damn Popeyes chicken and stuff like that. But I mean, hey, what can you expect from Esau, man? All right, and the only reason I'm throwing this one in here because it still centers around food and things of that nature. All right, the economy. But yeah, I saw this. Man, this is just crazy, man. Esau, right? But yeah, but like I said, there's a couple of videos out. My man got the belt trying to whip people at the door, and eventually they put the police force out there to stand people back behind a barricade because people are fighting over chicken. All right. So moving on, this was a one I had sitting here. J.P. Morgan warns of potential 2027 global food crisis driven by Hormuz disruptions and El Nino. And I'm just thinking about, I'm going to throw this in here real quick because I was just thinking about another little slide that I just saw about them expecting a prediction of a 9.2 mega earthquake off, Alaska. Well, wait a minute. How can you expect it to be a 9.2? Unless you're actually going to use like your HARP device or something like that to create it. But other topic, right? And if it happens like they so-called predicted, then we know Esau had a hand in it. Okay. But either way, that's interesting. I think I saw that from Dawud 7. I was just looking at that a few minutes back. But yeah, so they predicted a 9.2 megaquake off Alaska. Excuse me. So again, with this headline back into our point, J.P. Morgan warns of potential 2027 global food crisis driven by Hormuz disruptions and El Nino. All right, that's been a big topic. Okay. Um, so it says, yeah, J.P. Morgan economists warn that a compounding storm of war, extreme weather, and supply chain fragility could trigger a global food crisis by 2027. Right and wrong, all right? Those things do play a factor, but that global famine is already in play. The Lord already has that in the works, okay? And it's slowly working, all right, its way around the globe, all right, and into the states and into the cities of Babylon as well, okay? Which two of those things we're going to talk about in the final clips, okay? And they have, is it here or is it the next one? I think I have it. I'm not sure. When food inflation will accelerate to 5% by the first half of probably next year. It says they don't know what it is. Like I said, these are screenshots. Oh, here it is. The 5 W's. I'm going to read this middle paragraph right here. And fertilizer vulnerability. The JP Morgan report attributes the potential crisis to what analysts call the 5 W's: war, weather, warehousing, water, and waste. All right. Now, of course, we know war's taking place. We know about the crazy weather patterns. A big thing as of now, drought. Okay, you've got fires taking place. Warehousing, all right, where things are stored. Water, useful. Come on, needs not to be said. That's just a universal one right there. And waste. Now, I'm not sure exactly where they're going at with waste. Like wasted food or actual waste. I'm not sure. But anyways, the most, and it could be, dealing with fertilizer. Who knows? Anyways, the most immediate vulnerability lies in the fertilizer supply chain, as the Middle East serves as a critical source of global potash and urea. Any prolonged disruption to shipping routes through the Strait of Hormuz would drive up fertilizer prices, raising planting costs for farmers worldwide and reducing crop yields and subsequent harvest. All right, and I'm not sure if it's here down below. I might read the rest of this paragraph. It says, what the hell is that word? Since Tivani warned that this year's energy shock could roughly double the inflationary impact of a super El Nino, lifting global food consumer prices by approximately 1.5 percentage points, compared with the historical average increase of 0.7 points. And all right. I don't see what I was looking for, but yeah, there's this thing. And it's talking about J.P. Morgan and mentioning the illusion of plenty. All right. This term, the illusion of plenty, which is more so dealing with oil, the illusion that there's more oil, all right, in store or reserved or however you want to word it, than there actually is. All right. So, there's a thing there, the illusion of plenty. All right. So, yeah. So, Jake knows he's hell, boy. Goddamn. My goodness. He's staying in the range just to be nosy. Said, boy, that is madness. Anyways, boy, oh man, what was I saying? Yeah, the illusion of madness. The illusion of madness. So you got me the illusion of plenty. Excuse me, the illusion of plenty. Right, the illusion that there's more than what's actually in store, but it's dealing more so with the oil. But going back to the one of the first slides, right, the Hormuz Strait. We got the Hormuz Strait. We got the Gate of Tears, right? Two major choke points. Okay, and a big talk about those choke points is obviously oil, and as we just mentioned, the potash, the urea, because the farmers need that fertilizer that comes through, and 70% of the farmers, globally are not receiving that. And you have an uptick at what? Gas pumps. Well, the farmers grow the crops. So if they can't get what they need to grow their crops, they have to use an alternative or use whatever they have, which is going to excuse me, not yield a full harvest, which is basically a shortage, in other words. Okay, so but then you have to get it from point A to point B, and it takes the diesel trucks to do that, or trucks period to do that. So the diesel is high and they can't afford it. Trucks don't move, and if they do move, they're only going to move but so much at a I can't say at a time, but only move but so much period, because they don't have the fuel to supply the diesel trucks to move whatever to wherever. Okay, and then you have the element of drought. All right, so all these things are tying in, and they're basically to generalize everything, tying into the food source. Okay, and this is the Lord working into a global famine. All right, this is gonna be a major thing. All right, and as we keep speaking about, and that's what's going to lead a lot of people to bow the knee to Esau and take his little device, his little tiny machine. All right, because like it says in Revelation 13, no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark of the beast, or in his hand or his forehead. Okay, so I think that was it for those slides there. Where's my other things? All right, yeah, here we go. So these are the last two things I want to get into, and we'll hit the top first. So right here, you have Kellogg's Omaha plant to lay off remaining employees ahead of August closure. Final 350 employees scheduled to lose jobs between August 4th and August 18th. All right, this is it's not recent as in it just started, but the complete closure is happening around this time. All right, and I actually have the same clips. I don't need to play that. So yeah, Kellogg's Omaha plant to lay off remaining employees ahead of August closure. All right. See, Jake about to starve out here because they think it's a game. Okay. And they're gonna do what? Look for Esau to help them out. They're gonna go crazy over no snap. Well, not exactly no snap November. That was the thing of that moment. But snap benefits get cut off. Jake gonna go crazy. Okay. Everybody talking about Gary, Indiana right now. All right. No help. Just like they did with Louisiana. No help. Just like they're doing right now with Cuba. They're already in a blackout. They're already having a shortage of food. No help. The help that's going to come is going to be Esau, and he ain't really come to help. It says, never trust thy enemy, for his iron rusted towards his wickedness, and at the end, he will declare his wickedness. Esau just wants to take over you, your resources, your land, all right, and ultimately lead you into the new age, which is you being you accepting digital, all right. Yep, it says the last remaining employees at Kellogg's Omaha plant are expected to be laid off Tuesday. And this is dated August 18, 2026. So that's already passed now. The company said June 1st that about 450 employees would lose their jobs ahead of the plant's planned closure in August, including 100 between July 6th and July 20th, and the remaining 350 between August 4th and August 18th. The plant is in the southwest Omaha area near 96th and F Streets and has operated more than 60 years. All right, yeah, 60 years. Plans to close the Kellogg's plant in Omaha were announced almost 2 years ago. A phased reduction in production began in late 2025. All right, so the big talk came up in 2024. Things start to shift in 2025, and now the final closure is now in this time period now in 2026. All right, the affected employees include union and non-union workers, according to a company release. The company said it's providing severance payments to affected employees. All right, but there's going to come a time where Esau is going to say, in order to do everything in society, including working, you're going to need his device, just like he threatened people with the C19er, and a lot of people folded under pressure. All right, he's going to do the same thing with the C hip, same game plan. Because if it works, all right, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? At the time of the closure announcement, Kellogg's also said it planned to scale back production at its plants in Memphis. The company said the changes would result in a more focused, streamlined facility and described plans to invest in new infrastructure, equipment, technologies, and capabilities as its plants in Michigan, Ontario, and Pennsylvania. Kellogg sent a statement Tuesday morning. WK Kellogg Company announced its commitment in August 2024 to modernize its supply chain, which included plans to close the Omaha plant this year. Production has ended, and we are entering decommissioning. The building will be listed for sale. This move is difficult in how it impacts our people in Omaha, and we are committed to supporting them and their families with care and respect through the transition. All right, so yeah, so many people just like that, all right, out of a job, all right, because the economy is getting worse and worse for everybody, especially if you live in Babylon the Great, okay, and food sources are getting shorter and shorter, and this is no big surprise, because these big chain stores, somewhere or another, they link back to these bankers, right? Somewhere they got their hand or foot in there somewhere. All right, so yeah, there you go. That's probably more. That might be it. Yeah. So that's on that one. Um, and now to the bottom, to the Guardian, yeah, Tyson says, what does Tyson's shutdown of 2 U.S. beef plants mean for grocery cost? So you see these things happening. All right, closures, man, shutdown. All right, things that are centered around food. Meat producer closes facilities in Utah and Illinois as beef prices rise for consumers amid historic cattle shortage. All right, this is dated Friday, August 21st, Friday 21st of August 2026, at least here in the Guardian, because I believe it came up before, the 21st, but in the Guardian stated here. So Tyson Foods, the largest meat packing company in the U.S., announced last week that it is closing 2 of its facilities in Illinois and Utah and selling a beef facility in Washington State, and will lay off hundreds of workers as the supply of cattle hits a 75-year low. You see that? Their supply of cattle hits a 75-year low. So in the long run, where's a lot of this beef going to start coming from? Esau, right? Lab grown meat, okay? Now, of course, not everything is lab grown or whatever the case may be. More than likely, the bigger the city that you live in, the bigger the chance you have of running into something that's lab grown, all right, meat, because it's a big city, right? So the chances are higher that you're gonna run into some fake meats, all right, and try to distinguish between what's fake and what's not, all right? Than a smaller city or some hick town or something like that. The bigger the city, the more likely it is that you might run into fake meats, whatever. But anyways, the historic cattle shortage has been driven by a multi-year drought. There's a drought we talked about, right? Rising costs and severe economic pressures, including consolidation among cattle ranchers. Beef prices have soared over the last year due to the shortage, though economists said the Tyson plant closures likely won't hit consumer prices so hard. And they'll say it's right. Earlier this month, Tyson reported in its third quarter earnings that beef volume is down 15.9% and beef operating loss is at $138 million. Economists said that Tyson plant closures alone aren't expected to have a big impact on beef prices. Glenn Tonzer, an agriculture economist at Kansas State University, said the U.S. has had excess capacity for processing and packaging beef for several years now, and beef that would have been processed in Tyson, Illinois, and Utah plants would just be rerouted. All right, but nonetheless, you have these closures happening. You have different things like this happening. All right, and they're not random. All right, these things are leading up to a great, because because it's coming to, and Jacob's trouble is coming to, it's going to go global. These types of things are going to go global. But we often talk about Babylon the Great, the greatest place of destruction and things to unfold. But, to speak, about the 2/3 real quick, even when you read, what is it, Joel 1. Well, I'm not even just Joel 1. I'm just thinking about Joel 1. But Joel 1, all right, or any, there's different times in the past where the Lord will send judgment on Israel, and sometimes that judgment will happen to be what? Famine. And this is what the Lord is doing in these latter days, Jacob's trouble. And one of the things that he's bringing in Jacob's trouble is a famine, and it's going to be a global famine because Israel is scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, and on top of that, heathens have a judgment as well. So he's, two birds with one stone, because the only ones he's going to protect and feed and so on and so forth are his hopeful elect. But for the 2/3 of our people and the heathens, a global famine is coming. All right. I mean, the global famine is coming even to the hopeful elect, but the Lord is going to feed them. All right. Because you may find yourself without something to eat. All right. But it's going to be a test. All right. To see what you're going to do. Wait on the Lord. All right. Trust in Esau, take the sea hip, or whatever the case may be. See? So there, what is this? Okay, that's something else. All right, we can drop all of this. That was the last thing there. Just wanted to hit those two quick. Those last two. And we'll end it here because this is the one we wanted to get to, the scriptures, right? Right here, 2 Ezra 16 and 17. Woe is me, who will deliver me in those days, the beginning of sorrows and great mournings. See, this is what Jacob's about to feel sorrowful, and there's going to be a lot of mourning in these times to come. All right, because all hell is going to break loose, and Jake ain't going to know what to do because they were warned, all right, by the men of the Lord, but they ignored, or maybe because you have some that do agree, all right, they throw up the fist, nod their head, wave their hand, Judah, whatever, but do they actually want to learn about it? No. They heard that they're the Israelites and they accepted it, but that's as far as they go. So they're still going to be caught out there in the same madness and confusion and, the drought, this hunger that's about to come, all right, the cannibalism that's going to take place, all the violence, all right, especially the Jake that be living in the hood. Okay, the beginning of famine and great death. See that? Famine and great death, because death is one thing within itself, but then famine also brings death. And famine also breeds diseases because, you have animals that get sickly diseases. You have people, right, that start to wither away. That can bring diseases, dead bodies, dead animals, diseases. Okay. So, and then that's aside from all the other things, because you got all kinds of diseases being talked about right now, from mosquitoes to ticks and, the Hansa, the neuro, and man, the Bobit's still around, and there's just so many things, man. Okay, these things are going to catch Jake off guard because the Lord's going to he's just going to unleash the floodgates, and all types of things are going to be happening all at once amongst all the madness and chaos. And just all kinds of things are going to be hitting Jake, man. And we just want to be protected. It says the beginning of wars, we see those things happening, and the powers shall stand in fear. The beginning of evils, you see evils, beholding evil, and only evil is come. All right. It says in Jeremiah, for such as to death, such as to the famine, such for the sword to the sword, or something like that. See, the teeth to teeth the wild beast, or something like that, which also speaks about that in the Apocrypha, teeth of wild beast. Okay, the dogs to tear, something like that. It says, what shall I do when these evils shall come? We trust in the Lord now. We want to trust in the Lord later. Right, building up our faith now, so we'll have faith later. Behold, famine and plague. All right, famine and plague. That's twice now. I already mentioned famine and plague, diseases, tribulation, troublesome times, right, and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment. It's because it's mainly about what? The correction of the house of Israel. See? But the whole world will be caught up in this because the judgment will be global. Jacob's trouble. But for all these things, they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges. And they have an opportunity to turn from now. Because the prophets are warning, beginning with the apostles and on down. Jake is being warned now. okay, about what's happened. Southern Kingdom as well as Northern Kingdom. Northern Kingdom getting warned about things about, you know, Colombia happening, Venezuela, earthquakes that are happening to the Northern Kingdom, vanilla ice happening to the Northern Kingdom, things like that. They're getting warned about those things too. All right, Southern Kingdom got their things that they're getting warned about. All right, so there's a and guess what? When you go in the Old Testament, it was the same way. The Lord had prophets for the Northern Kingdom. He had prophets for the Southern Kingdom. So there was no excuse. All right, the word is going out. And there's going to come a time, Amos chapter 8, verse 11, where it says there's going to not be a famine of bread or water, but a thirst of hearing the word, which there's going to be a famine, actual famine. But that scripture's not talking about food and bread or whatever, bread and water. It's talking about the best water, which is this truth. It's going to be sealed off. And Jake ain't going to know what to do. See? They ain't going to know what to do but trust Esau. But for all these things, they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges. Behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth that they shall think themselves to be in good case. All right, when prices are low, when gas is low, all right, stuff, things are low in general. Okay, they think that they're good. And but it says what? Even then shall evils grow up on earth. Why? Because we're in the end of an age. And times are only going to get progressively worse. Even if there's a day or a week where it seems like, oh man, all the prices went down and stuff like that, and people just and what Jake quickly forgets, and things go back to normal for them. You see, they quickly forget. But it's not over. Things are gonna get right back to the way they were, and as we keep moving down the line in Jacob's trouble, it's gonna get even more worse to the point where all hell breaks loose. Sword, that's thrice. Famine, see, and great confusion. Why great confusion? Because no one's gonna know what to do except for the men of the Lord. All right, and those few sisters that have adhered to the truth, to the true gospel. Okay. So there you go. Evils grow upon earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. For many of them that dwell upon earth shall perish of, that's for, famine. See? Perish of famine. This is going to be made. The Lord has listed it 4 times out of the mouth of the prophet Esdras. This is going to be a major thing that shakes up the entire globe, especially here in Babylon the Great. And the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. So even if you get away with someone who just might have a little few things, then they're somewhat getting by. They might get put to death because there's going to be a hungry person out there who might be by themselves or might be with others or might have a family, and they might want what you have. And if you and they're going to delete you and take it, or they might eat you. Cannibalistic nature, because they're going to be in survival mode. But then also you can look at the scenario of those that take a sea hit. See, they escape the hunger by what? Taking the tiny machine, and then what? What does it say in Revelation? 14:9-11? You're going to get burned in the lake of fire, which is Babylon, the second great death, Babylon the Great, destroyed by nuclear missiles. So either way, all right, either way, you're not going to make it. It says, that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy, and the dead shall be cast out as dung, and there shall be no man to comfort them, for the earth shall be wasted, and the city shall be cast down. See that? There shall no man be left to till the earth and to sow it. Going back to what we talked about, the farmers, right? The trees shall give fruit, and who shall gather them? The grapes shall ripen, and who shall tread them? For all places shall be desolate of men, so that one man shall desire to see another, and to hear his voice. For of a city there shall be 10 left, and 2 of the field, which shall hide themselves in the thick groves and in the clefts of the rocks. See? As in an orchard of olives, upon every tree there are left 3 or 4 olives, or as when a vineyard is gathered, there are left some clusters of them that diligently seek through the vineyard. That's the gleaning. Even so, in those days there shall be 3 or 4 left by them that search their houses with the sword. You see, going from house to house, just like they showed you in The Walking Dead. All right, scavengers. We're gonna have scavengers out here. They're gonna scavenge, items and people, and probably gonna eat both. And the earth shall be laid waste, and the fields thereof shall wax old, and her ways and all her paths shall grow full of thorns, because no man shall travel therethrough. The virgin shall mourn, having no bridegrooms. The women shall mourn, having no husbands. Their daughters shall mourn, having no helpers. And the wars shall their bridegrooms be destroyed, and their husbands shall perish. That's 5 times perish of famine. All right. And what's 5? Power. That's going to be the power of the Lord to bring these things, man. All right. In the form of judgment, though. These things are coming in the form of judgment. Okay. Man, I was going to stop right there. I'll get these last few here. Hear now these things and understand them, ye servants of the Lord. Behold, the word of the Lord, receive it. Believe not the gods of whom the Lord spake. Behold, the plagues draw nigh and are not slack. See, they draw nigh and they're not slack, because the Lord says he's going to visit the earth which he made in 2 Esdras chapter 9. And we see all different types of prophecies unfolding themselves, which lets us know that we're at the end. Now, we don't know the exact end of this age, but we know we are at the end of this age. And then when I say exact end, I mean when everything is just going to, flip the switch. We don't know. Yahushua doesn't even know. Okay? Only the Lord knows. But we know we are at the end of this age. All right? And going to transition into Yahushua's kingdom. We're at the very end. All right? So we're doing our best to stay alert. Behold, the plagues draw nigh and are not slack. As when a woman with child in the 9th month bringeth forth her son, like a pregnant woman about to give birth. With 2 or 3 hours of her birth, great pains compass her womb. Those contractions, right? Which pains, when the child cometh forth, they slack not a moment. All right. Even so shall not the plagues be slack to come upon the earth. You see, and they're happening, especially with these earthquakes, man. Man, just earthquake after earthquake after earthquake after earthquake. Some more major, some small. All right. A lot of them have been like 5 and above as of late. Okay. And the world shall mourn. That's what's happening. Okay, you got all kinds of things, sedition among men, wars, rumors of wars, and so on and so forth. All right. And the world shall mourn, and sorrow shall come upon it on every side. So around the globe. All right. And, centering back to that last thing, this famine that's coming, that's one of those, things that the world is going to mourn about. Because that sorrow is going to come upon this world. Okay. And that's going to lead into, the hour of temptation. So many of us are going to be beheaded. Some are going to escape. All right. But as far as the 2/3 and the rest of the heathen, okay, whether they get deleted, by beheading or not, doesn't really matter. They're gonna have two choices: get with the system or not get with the system. And Esau has no problem getting rid of people because he wants to depopulate anyways. Okay, but there's a major famine coming. All right, and there's no prepping out of what's to come. Okay, no one can prep out of what's to come. Not saying that having a few extra things is nothing bad with that. Of course it is if you got it, but just not putting your trust in those goods, because you can be flushed out of your house, or you could be dragged out of your house and taken away to a FEMA camp. All right, when I say flushed out, meaning you might have to flee. Okay, and maybe you're able to take a few things with you, but how long are those few things going to last? So you're going to need faith regardless, because when those things run out, you're going to need the Lord to feed you. All right, and that's what we're hoping for, the Lord which we know the Lord's going to make doing His word. We just hope that we're of that number. All right, but the Lord is going to feed. All right, that hopeful elect remnant, and the rest of the world is going to have to go through it. All right, it says the same shall know after death by pain. But I'm going to leave it at that. Lord willing, you edify to next time. That's all I'm going to say. Shalom.
We have a massive global food crisis looming, and it's underway right now. You can tie this into everything going on around the world economically, especially with Hormuz, but also with weather events. And all of this tracks back to being controlled by the U.S. government. We now have a warning being put out from JP Morgan itself, because it seems the sheep or the average person out there is just not getting the message. They're not getting the hint. This is something that I've been telling everyone on my live streams for months now. There is an illusion in terms of the prices that are being rigged and fixed, and the idea that we have plenty of everything. JP Morgan calls it the illusion of plenty, as you can see here, when talking about this food crisis. They go on to say that this is something that is not going to be short-lived. He focuses on here, when talking about this, Jamie Dimon says the 5 W's are war, weather, warehousing, water, and waste. And the situation with the water crisis in this country is at extreme emergency. And you have all these factors coming together. Again, we're at emergency levels in terms of the waterways out there. And then when you add in that we're not getting any fertilizer to go with that, that has made the forecast for this year's crops already dismal, and it's going to be bad. So they're looking past that. They're looking into 2027, and they're saying, guess what? 2027, we're pretty much done for. The water is projected to be dried up almost completely by next year. And the crop projections for next year, as of right now, if things stay on par for where they're at, are going to be worse than what they were this year for sure. You have no end in sight when it comes to this war front, and I'm going to tell you, it's being pushed for a reason to reset the markets globally, and that's including America. They say within the next 6 to 12 months that you're going to see a spike, an inflationary spike, and it's not going to be at the gas pump like some expect. They expect it to be in the grocery aisle, at the store, where the people are feeling it the most. One of the main reasons here is because El Nino, another factor, it not only affecting America and its weather, but also large areas around the world that grow our food. You're talking South and Southeast Asia. They have the rice, sugar, coffee coming out of it. You have West Africa, the cocoa, parts of East and Southern Africa. So the EM bears the brunt of El Nino. They say the largest food inflation response coming from this will be seen at the food carriers. So get ready. You've got some time because it doesn't seem like the masses are going to catch on to the last minute. But I tell you what, like always, when they go flooding in and the panic begins, it begins. And you better have had a plan for that because it's coming. It's just one of the things that's a guarantee at this rate unless something massive was to change. We're beyond the point of getting things flowing back to normal. It's way beyond that. And they're signaling this war is going to drag out for months. They've even said years. So I would prepare accordingly in regards to this. I wish you well.
2 years ago, the Kellogg's company here told us their plans to modernize its supply chain. And the Omaha plant was not a link in that chain. So after gradually laying off its employees, the plant is now officially closed.
John Chapman explains how the loss of a decades-long employer will affect the metro.
There are still cars parked around the Kellogg's plant in southwest Omaha, but the logo high up on the building doesn't have the same meaning it's had for tens of decades.
They've kind of put the writing on the wall, but now they've officially said that the plant's going to close and all those jobs are going away. It's terrible for our community and the families that depended on that for generations, a lot of them.
The jobs here were good jobs, union scale wages. Kellogg's issued a statement that reads in part, "This move is difficult in how it impacts our people in Omaha, and we are committed to supporting them and their families with care and respect through the transition." Production in the plant has ended. The building will be listed for sale.
Hopefully another manufacturer, somebody can come in that'll create great jobs like the Kellogg's plant was, but that's a high bar to set right now. I'm hoping that somebody can take that over, but I haven't seen anything what the future looks like. It's a sad day for Omaha.
In Omaha, I'm John Chapman, First Alert 6.
We have more red flags here in terms of the global food supply. Ukraine and their grain exports are collapsing. They're saying that this is because of attacks in the Black Sea, and this is the breadbasket of all of Europe that is responsible for feeding millions of people. It has largely been GMO'd since America got in there. But what's happening right now is a global reset controlled by Trump and everything going on with Hormuz. What this comes down to are the global choke points. You can see in the image on the right there. A key one over in the Americas is the Panama Canal. But then you have the Straits of Gibraltar into the Mediterranean down to the Suez Canal, which thus far not much has been said in terms of the Suez Canal, but at some point it will be brought into the mix here because Hormuz already locked down. And then the Strait of Tears, the area that they're locking down now. So once these two sections are fully closed off under war, The only way out and around is through the Straits of Gibraltar, and you're going to have to go all the way down and around Africa to do so. This is complicating everything. The Trump administration knows this. All the warning signs are there, and they're telling the whole world, a world that I don't think is listening, that this is going to go on for a long time. I would have a plan. I would get ready. The harvest is going to be very dismal this year in America, and it's dismal everywhere else. The water is low because of a mega drought. We've seen this from the Danube over to the Colorado River. It's global. They're doing this on purpose, and I'm telling you, this is to usher in a global reset. There's going to be a lot of pain that comes along with this in the end. So people may think they can skate through the rest of this year. Next year, it's definitely going to be on big time, especially with things not changing. At this point, I'm curious to see how crops turn out for the end of this year. If you're having any issues, any problems, let me know.